Hey everybody, Tony nominations are announced tomorrow. It's Tony time, award season. You know what that means? It's also Tony party time. I'm sponsoring a big old Tony party. I hope you can come. Invitations will be going out to all members of the Producer's Perspective Pro. So check out the producersperspectivepro.com. On to the podcast.
I wanna be a producer with a hit show on Broadway. I wanna be a producer.
Hello, everybody. This is the Producer's Perspective Podcast. I am Ken Davenport. I am super excited to have a superstar director, choreographer with us today. Please welcome to the podcast Tony Award, Olivier Award, Emmy Award, Drama Desk Award, and Outer Critics Award-winning director, choreographer Rob Ashford. Welcome, Rob.
Hi, Ken. Nice to be here.
So I first met Rob on what I believe was your very first Broadway choreographer credit, right? On Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Thoroughly Modern Millie was the first.
The first. And he just happened to win a Tony Award for his first show out of the gate, just like that.
I was blessed and lucky, and it was a thrill to start out. Plus, it was a great show.
Yeah, it was.
It was a great show to work on, and it was a great group to work with. You know, we did our out-of-town first in La Jolla, and we were waiting for our theater and waiting to come in, you know, after that. And we were doing some work on the show, of course, as you always do. And then 9/11 happened. And our little group, Michael Mayer, Janine Sori, Dick Scanlon, we kind of survived that time by working on Thoroughly Modern Millie. We got together every week. We had a full day of work session every week to just keep us focused, keep us working, keep us creating, and it made such a huge difference in the show overall, I think, in the final result. So it was a great experience as well as a nice interview.
And done a ton more shows, including directing and choreographing the revivals of How to Succeed, Promises, Evita, and If You Think He Can Only Do Musicals. While in London, he directed Streetcar Named Desire at the Donmar Warehouse, Anna Christie, and here Cat on a Hudson Roof, Macbeth. He's choreographed for the Kennedy Center Honors, the Academy Awards multiple times, and also directed and choreographed The Sound of Music Live and Peter Pan Live for NBC. So my first question, it's a doozy. Ready?
Yes.
Is it true you're from Beckley, West Virginia?
It is very true. I am from Beckley, West Virginia.
I did summer stop there.
Did you? What happens in the police?
No, I did it at the very short-lived West Virginia State Music Theater. Ran for 2 seasons.
Oh, really? Yeah, we have. That's how I got started in this business. There's an outdoor summer stock theater that does a musical retelling of the Hatfields and McCoys, the feud between the Hatfields and McCoys, and that's 5 nights a week. And 2 nights a week is kind of a Civil War drama called Honey in the Rock. And they both had musical aspects. They all had dancers, and that was kind of what we all grew up on in my town. That was the only theater we had. And so everybody would go every summer, even though the shows were the same, different cast. That's where I fell in love with theater.
So you were a performer, obviously.
So then I went on my summer of graduating from high school, I went to I was very bold. I went to John Benjamin, who was the artistic director at the time, went to his office and basically just asked if I could meet him. And I came in, I said I was the president of the Thespian Society at my high school, and I love having employees, and I'd like to be in it. And I think he thought that I was so bold that he actually put me in it as an extra. I made $35 a week. I had a small part in Hatfields. I was one of the McCoy sons, and had a wonderful death scene. Only 2 lines, but a wonderful death scene. And a small part, 1 line, in Honey in the Rock. And then my 3rd summer there, first day of rehearsal, one of the dancers didn't show up for rehearsal. And they came up to me and said, I know you're not here, but could you possibly fill in for this, till we get someone here to take this position? And I said, sure, I would love to, because I had done the show for 2 seasons before. I knew what the dances were. There was a big funeral dance that was quite dramatic and very Martha Graham that I loved. And so I just stood in till they got a guy there, but actually it came very naturally to me, and they thought I was doing great, so they didn't replace me, and I stayed in that position. And the dance captain who had gone, named Sunita Akers, and she had gone to Point Park College. She came up to me and said, I think you could be a dancer too. She said, yes, I absolutely do. And I was in pre-law at Washington University at the time. I'd done 2 years of that. And she invited the head of the jazz department of Point Park College in Pittsburgh down to see the show, teach class, the new scholarship.
So wait a minute, because this flies in the face of every convention I've ever heard about dancers. So you didn't start when you were 2 years old, 20 years old as a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, I had determination, and I never played sports or anything in school, so I didn't have like football muscles or soccer muscles that had to be retrained. I had no muscles, so it was very adaptable to the dancing. So I called my parents and said, I'm not going back to WNL. Be a lawyer.
And when you graduated from school, did you then just truck up here to New York?
I came right to New York. I moved here with Kathleen Marshall, who she didn't go to Point Park, but her family lived in Pittsburgh. And she graduated from Smith the same time I graduated from Point Park, and her dad practiced in a U-Haul, and we moved to New York.
And obviously started dancing in a bunch of shows, right?
Yes, I was very lucky. Anything Goes was my first show that I did. It was thrilled to be a part of that. It was an exciting Lincoln Center. It was a very exciting time, and a lot of wonderful energy around that show. So that was fun. That was my first show.
And when did you say, okay, I think I want to start choreographing? I think I can create these things.
I was, at the time when I first, I'd done a tour of Kiss of Spider-Man as a dance captain and swing. We got to work with the amazing Cheetah. When they were they were setting a company of Spider-Man in Buenos Aires. Rob Marshall, who was a choreographer, couldn't go, and he sent me down to stage the show. So I was down there with Al Prince in Argentina, and I was restaging all rock choreography. So it was a fortunate and thrilling moment because, one, I didn't have to worry about what the steps were and if they were good, because they were really good, and I had been taught what they all meant by Rob himself. So I didn't have any worries about that, but yet I still had all the responsibilities of being the on-site choreographer, of teaching the steps, of trying to teach the acting on top of the steps, to try to help get the acting points across, even with the language barrier. And I fell in love with that process. And then, fortunately, just to solidify it, the same thing happened in Tokyo. They did a company in Tokyo, Rob couldn't go, and sent me. And I was able to do it again in Japan. So those two experiences of being the lieutenant and getting to be on the other side of the table and trying to, and really understanding about acting through dance, or trying to understand it and trying to teach that, really made me excited about that aspect. Came back from that, I went into, thank you, Rob Marshall, I went into Victor Victoria as a dance captain, so I was working with Julie Andrews, which was and it was during that, I was a swing as well, I was one of the smaller guys, so if you remember the show, but I was being thrown around a lot in 3-inch heels, and my body was just wrecked, So I actually felt like I was losing my love of performing because I was too worried about being injured and getting through it. And so it wasn't so fun for me anymore. So that's when I decided maybe I should try to do the other, at least give it a go.
It's such a pivotal moment, I think, in so many people's lives when they get to a point of they've been doing something that they started off loving for 10 years, whatever, and they get to a point where they're like, I don't love this anymore. Yeah. And so many people, most people, stay doing that thing and then end up miserable. But you jumped out and...
Well, I was lucky, I have to say, I was lucky, to know Rob Marshall and his influence and his help, but also helped me. Because after working with him on Spider-Man in Argentina and Tokyo, when this moment happened for me, and I said, I think I'd like to choreograph, and I just went to him and said this. And that's when he said, well, I'm getting ready to do this new musical, Parade, Lincoln Center, and I'll speak to first choreographer was Danny Ashford, and the second choreographer was Pat Birch, and I'll speak to Danny and tell him I want you to be his assistant. And so Hal put me on Parade as an assistant choreographer, first for Danny and then for Pat Birch when she took over for him, and which was also a wonderful opportunity. And the other thing was I said to Hal, I want to be a choreographer? He said, show me your voice. Show me. And he helped me. He and Brad Rouse, who ran his office, they helped me set up this whole. I did a 2-week workshop of. I created 2 dances. One is kind of a story ballet that was 15 minutes long. 20 people, 20 of the dancers that I was working with in Victoria and Spider-Woman and all my friends, on the street that were in this, and then one smaller piece, about 5 minutes, about 4 people. One of the dancers that I knew, his boyfriend was the company manager for Martha Graham, so he got me the Martha Graham studio over at Roll Studio in the 60s on the east side before they tore it down. So we had the run of his studio. You're sitting in Martha Graham's chair with the Gucci tape beside you. It felt like, very exciting and daunting. So we did these 2 pieces. Hal brought some people, brought some casting people, brought some other general managers, brought a couple of other people, whoever would come, like 20 people, and somehow came and watched me do my first thing and gave me notes afterwards, lots of notes, good ones, very good ones I've tried to always keep in mind.
It's so funny. I was the company manager on that parade workshop in Toronto.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah, that's right.
And
that was Danny.
Yes. And what's so funny is I remember watching you work because it was a challenging workshop, many levels.
It was very challenging.
And I remember watching you work through some of those challenges, and just I've had this moment many times in my span in the industry where I've been like, oh, that person is going to be a star. Whether it was Kristen Chenoweth and Steel Pierre, or this moment, I remember seeing you work going like your mind was just all over it and solving those challenges. All just came back to me right now. So lots of our choreographers in our business have gone on to be director choreographers of musicals, great ones, the Fosse's and Bennett's, etc.
Sure.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that it's a natural progression, I think. And I think that, in the search in a musical for a whole, complete whole, and if you're in charge of how a show moves, in essence, as the choreographer, and some more than others, some directors like to have a hand in that, and some love to just hand it to you and have you do it, the more you do that, the more you realize, and if you're creating a dance based on character, you're doing all that work anyway, so and also if you're lucky and get to work with really good directors, which I got to work with, people like Scott Ellis and John Rando, Mark Brokaw, that included me in the design process, included me in the cast, included me in all of it. And I was inside it with these guys, and they allowed me to be and welcomed me. And so I learned a lot about that as well, and I'm so thankful for that. But they could have kept me out completely, and it's just like the music starts here, and they quit singing, and you do the dance, and then off. So that was good. It is, if you have you want to try to keep growing, try to keep being better, and so the idea of directing a musical felt like something I wanted to try.
So that progression, as you say, it's natural. It happens a lot. Now, not many of our choreographers of musicals go on to be great directors of plays, which is something you've been able to do. How did you make that transition?
Well, I have to say again that there's always these great people that champion you. Mine was Michael Grandage, and that was the first time I directed a musical. The first time I directed anything was the Dawn Parade, and I was choreographing Evita with Michael in London. And I had just done Guys and Dolls with Michael in London on Evita, and he says, you are a director. And I said, I don't know what you mean. He said, you are a director. The way you create the dances, the way you talk to the actors, the way your mind works is a director's mind who happens to be choreographing at the moment. If you were to direct a musical, say, at the Don Mar, where he was the artistic director, and I said, well, the musical I love the most, what I would love to do, and I feel like, I'd like to get a shot at it as Parade, because I loved the show, and I believed in it so much, and I felt like it didn't get justice it deserved the first time around. So Michael went away and listened to it and read it and came back and said, direct Parade, do it. Do your first musical. Direct your first anything. I don't know. I directed Parade. It went very well and loved doing it and loved the experience. And I said to Michael, and that's when I got offered to do, honestly, all the other directing musicals came And I said to Michael, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. So there's one way you can thank you, direct your first play here. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I mean, I love Tennessee Williams, of course, because I'm a Southern boy. I said, well, I love streetcar, but I can't do streetcar. And he's like, why can't you do streetcar? I said, well, streetcar. So my first play, because I should start something else. Maybe something small. Or something that's not Streetcar Named Desire.
Neil Simon, maybe.
Yeah. And he's like, he says, do streetcar. Do streetcar. And so then he gave me that opportunity to direct my first play, right on the tail of directing my first musical. And he helped get Rachel Weisz, she played Blanche, and Rufus, and Stella. And it was an amazing experience in the trip. They both under years. And that's how that came about. So that was Michael Grandage believing in me and giving me that opportunity.
When you work with stars or actors, is your rehearsal room for a musical different than your rehearsal room for a play?
It's the same. It's the same muscles. It's just, like a little discipline. I mean, the only difference between a musical and a play is a lot less. In a play, you're sitting, you don't have a big group up there with you. You don't have musical directors and all of those folks that you would have you do music. But it's the same idea. It's the same exact idea. You don't usually have a second room going. Usually you are unless there's some combat or something like that. We did Macbeth at Manchester Festival and then we did it here at the Armory. The show started with a 15-minute battle scene, so there was some side rehearsals going on with that, and we were doing scenes and things. But no, it's pretty much the same.
What's your process when you create a musical number? Like, I think a lot of people know, a writer sits down to write or a composer sits down at the piano. How do you, as a choreographer, come up with those steps?
The steps are almost the last thing, if not the last thing. I mean, the fun part is you get an idea and you get in a room with great assistants like I have, Chris and Charlie Williams. And then you get David Chase at the piano doing the dance. And you just sit there and you start exploring the characters and the situation intellectually, trying to figure out how do these people move, how do we have their movement define who they are. That's How to Succeed, for example, and Promises, both set in offices in the 60s, both in kind of, the difference was the Office of Promises was it's a very efficient kind of place, but with a slight push towards this idea of the secretaries, that idea of the dynamic between Sheldrake and Fran, and also the Fran. So it's an interesting dynamic you want to just have pepper through there. The same with How to Succeed, creating an office. How does the office move, and then how do people that aren't part of the office move? You just start trying to figure out who are the people that people were watching in films at the time, like Hetty LaRue. Who does Hetty LaRue? Who did she want to be? Who did she imagine that she was? She's Marilyn, so she imagines herself as kind of a Marilyn, and that helped define her movie. All those things and then when you have the music for you, and you have someone as great as they really pull the themes from the entire score and put it into this and lift this. I mean, it's an exciting thing to do. So that's what we do first: get an arrangement, and then we go the steps to it.
You've been able to pull some great performances out of some big stars. You just talked about the Olivia for Rachel, and of course, one of the greatest star performances I've seen in recent years was Daniel Radcliffe in How to Succeed, because it was so unexpected and he was so fantastic. Is there a secret to working with stars of that magnitude?
Well, I think that, the thing is that, one, they have to want to work, and Daniel did. And then you just have to, it's always bespoke. Everything's bespoke. Everything is make it for them, created for them, because the most important thing is that they look amazing. It's not about you looking amazing. And I say, that was the thing, too, after doing Streetcar with Rachel. One thing she said, she goes, I was worried at first, you coming from a choreographic background, that you were going to choreograph the show. She goes, and it wasn't like that at all. It was actually kind of just the opposite. She said, which was actually very free. And I think it helps in plays having been a choreographer, because I make up the dance in the studio for Daniel Radcliffe or Charlotte Dunbar. It doesn't matter, whichever one. And if Charlotte's left leg kicks better than her right, then why would I insist on the right leg? Same with Daniel. If he spins better to the right, and even though in the room we made the spins to the left, let's change to the right. Because he looks good, or maybe he doesn't look good at spins at all, we'll change it completely. Because what's the point? What does it mean? Why do that? Why play that power game with them and have them not at their very, very best? So when we talked to Daniel about doing it, and we did a little reading of it, and he said, that's the only thing I'm telling you. I'll work in the singing, I'll work in the acting. I said, I can't believe it. I can't. I said, something as physical as you are in your body, as you have swim, you've been studying someone for months. You had him on set for a lot of water. He came twice a week or something to class. And I said, I think you're with the wrong person. So I hooked him up with one of my associates in London, because he was shooting at the time, and started working with him. And I got a text from Dan a month later that says, I was wrong. I think I can. And so what we did was, but again, to try to help him, because he was anxious about that, and I wanted him to walk into rehearsal completely confident in that part, if that was the part he was the least confident. And so we did his choreography first. We did it early. We worked on it. We videoed it. We sent it to Spencer, who was there working with him in London. And Spencer worked with him. Spencer would report back, and we'd video, report back, and we could see, okay, the spins are better left, not right. We'd switch it up. We'd change it. We'd send the note. And so he came into rehearsal with all his dancing. And that's not normally how we would do it, and we would teach him ourselves and teach him in the room. But because I felt like this is something that's, you don't want to put a stumbling block, you want to come in with the confidence. And you know what? The first day we taught Brotherhood of Man, and there he was leading it for the company, for these incredible dancers. There he was, right in the middle, doing it, and doing it with confidence, that he won them all over, not that they needed winning over, and he won himself over.
It establishes him as the company leader, for sure.
All of that. You just need to think of all that. You need to think, all that matters.
So smart. There's, obviously a big part of psychology in what you do with these folks and with the entire productions.
I was a dance captain in Broadway show. You learn how to deal with people as individuals, not en masse. You know how to give notes, and you know how to get what you need out of people. It's something you learn from being a dance captain. So that was invaluable now. Knowing how I give you a note and how I give someone else a note, completely different. And it's not belittling to me, or it's my job. So if it takes a little more energy to give a certain person a note, and if they need a little bit more, protection, then do it. As long as they're going to do the best out there.
You said something that maybe I want to ask you about your play versus musical process. Obviously, as a choreographer, you create those dances, you get everyone in the room, you teach those dances. Mm-hmm. When you're directing a play, do you create the staging in advance? Do you say, I'm going to have her cross here, go to the bed?
I have a very basic idea, and that's usually based on, I often think of directing a scene like a ski run, and I think of flags. There's some flags along the way. So like what I would do is, let's say in Streetcar, I would say to Rachel, I would say, the entrance is down right, whatever. I'll set all those rules. That's the door, that's the street, that's all that. And then then I just say, it'd be great if when you tell her about Belle Reeve, you're at the table. And it would be great if when Stanley enters, you were up by that column. Just those ideas that I think. And then if you give them 3 or 4 flags, then they will just work their good actors will just work their way around.
Do you read reviews?
I do read them. I usually read them in hindsight, and I don't mean like years, but like maybe not in that moment, like not that night at midnight. Because I've learned I just want to try to stay in that moment with everybody. I have great friends and people that let me know. I know what's going on. I'm not oblivious to it. And I trust them completely, and they tell me, you should give Dan a call, you should give so-and-so a call, you should, whoever it is that might need that attention. And then I kind of take it from them, and then, a week or 2 later, and I'll meet them. I think there's something good on it.
Has that always been the case? Were you find when you just started and you were younger, were you reading them like, yes. Oh God, I got to see what the chat rooms are saying?
Yes, I was. I did. It puts you off balance. And then it was just trying to also, if I was going to do that, then I also had to take everything else that other people, it got really out of whack, in our town particularly. It's different in London. I think London helped me understand the balance of all that.
What's the biggest change you've seen in the industry over the last couple decades?
Changed. I mean, one thing that I do recall, it was back in the beginning, back in the early days and all that. I do know that it was tough to get a theater, but I don't remember that, how it is now. I don't remember all of that, and the idea of queuing and waiting for years to get one of the three theaters, and the power of those guys who hold those cards and doing deciding these handful of people decide every bit of it, whether it's on whim or whether it's on market research or focus groups or allegiances. I have no idea, but I just, no one said, when we were doing Millie, no one said, who's Millie? Does she have an Oscar? Does she have how many Oscars does she have? How many Emmys does she have? How many? That wasn't like that. It's like, who's going to be really good as Millie?
And thank God they didn't say that, because look who they found exactly. out of that. Yeah, we never would have had a Sutton Foster if there was an Emmy or an Oscar.
Absolutely. So I don't remember that then. I just remember it was about finding like great people, and of course, if you were lucky enough to have a show that interested and suited Patty LuPone, how great to have her in it. I mean, I'm not negating that at all, but it just didn't seem to be this crazy focus on. And I think we're being educated by television and film and all that stuff. We can get any of that anytime we want now. So I think we're becoming a bit more discerning about choosing what we like. So I think that for people like yourself and people like me, the creatives, the producers, it's up to us to not wait for journalists to tell the world what our show is. It's up to us to tell the world what our show is and be clear about it, to be strong about it. And and that was something I learned, you just mentioned earlier that I've done the Oscars a few years, and Craig, Zayden, and Neil Mayer, when they started producing the Oscars, they asked me to come and do the staging of the Oscars for them. And I learned a lot from them in that, because I think the way that it had always seemed, the way it worked in the past, I know it wasn't there, but that you wait for the nominations to come out and then you figure out what your show is. And what Neil and Craig said was, let's work on the show. Let's create the show, and then we know there'll be nominees, and we know that things will plug in, and we know what the awards are, and we know that, okay, then that can switch that, and maybe we'll get that person here because they were, but not to wait to do the show. And then we started working on the show in October for a show in February, designing it and creating the numbers and who we want to have as the musical guests and all of that kind of stuff. And that's proper time to create a show, because we had to decide what the show was going to be. We didn't wait until the nominators decided what the show was going to be. They decided who was going to be nominated, but we decided. Neil and Craig decided, along with their team, what the show was going to be. That's wise, and I think we could take that lesson in our business. Let's us be very clear about what the show is.
So speaking of film and television, when you were first approached about directing Sound of Music, what was your first thought?
Well, first thought was the live part, not scary at all. That was the part that everyone was so anxious about. It's going to be live. We do live all the time, and also we do the time that it matters the most. I've done the Tonys for so many years, the Oscars. Those are live, and then those are in this moment. So I'm used to focusing on all that, and that part doesn't scare me. People making mistakes, that idea doesn't really scare me. It was the logistics of it all. It was the idea of staging and rehearsing an entire Broadway musical the first year of Sound of Music, we were in the most inappropriate rehearsal space imaginable. And it's just because no one really knew what it was. Second year for Peter Pan, we got a proper rehearsal space where we could actually theoretically go from set to set and get a sense of how to travel. This idea of creating an entire show in a room, in a rehearsal room, which is the idea, but without capability and none of that in the rehearsal room. I mean, I created it with ideas in mind, shots in mind, focus in mind, but it's not exactly the same thing. And then going out to this soundstage and kind kind of starting all over. And so the logistics of all that was strictly along with, a whole different set of rules, not just the network rules and people like after rules. It's all set up. It's a whole different thing. It was cheaper. For some reason by the rules, and it has to do with featured players and all this stuff. For some reason, it was a lot cheaper to rehearse 4 nuns at a time than 5. So, is there any way we could rehearse the nuns 4 at a time instead of 5 at a time or 20 at a time? Which is what we had, or 24, or whatever we had. It was just kind of like,
I'm trying to imagine your face when someone said, "Can you just do 4?
Yeah,
just 4 at a time, please."
But they're just following their rules. That's just the rules they work under, and it's just and so all the logistics. I mean, it's a challenge. I was up for it. I was up for the challenge, and also because it was Craig and Neil, and I knew they knew what they were doing, and I knew that they would be able to help. And I knew that we would get there in the end. That they were needing us. And I think that we learned a lot between the first one and the second one, and it's exciting to be part of that at the beginning, the pioneers.
Was it that night? Was it scary?
I think when we pulled into the parking lot, either that day or the day before, trucks and vans and things. What is that? What is that? Well, that's the spare generator in case the whole complex goes down, and we can turn it. Just the idea of it having to happen at that moment, like that kind of stressed me, and also the weird thing of it being the big night and being the same people that we've ever known before. Everything's exactly the same, except this is the one that you see people do.
Advice for directors starting out today, some 20-year-old that's never danced before, getting into the business.
Yeah. I said, don't be afraid. And if you're afraid, that's good, because I think being afraid is what keeps us growing and keeps us getting better and taking on more challenges. And I would say that, there's no secret formula. It's just finding what you have to offer, what you like, what your interests are, what your loves are, and just try to cultivate those and to get yourself in there. I think that each very different. That's one difference between there's so many differences between working, and there are pros and cons to both. But they're all pros. They're just different. Is that we feel here? I think our younger folks here feel like they have to wait so long before they get their chance. And I feel like the younger folks, I think they get a chance. They make a chance happen. And I just think that we need a bit more out here. We need to get the younger folks here starting out. I think more of an opportunity, more of a chance. And not thinking we need to only rely on those 8 or those 10.
Okay, my last question, which is my James Lipton-like genie question. I want you to imagine that the genie from Aladdin comes to visit you, knocks on your door, and says thank you for your incredible contributions to the theater, to film and television, by granting you one wish. What's the one thing that drives you so crazy about Broadway, that gets you angry, would have you throwing things in a room, so mad that you'd ask this genie to wish away? The one thing.
I think I would wish for all of us working in the business to trust your own instincts, trust your own likes, don't be sheep.
I couldn't have said it more succinctly myself. That is just a perfect way to end this. Thank you very much for being here. And thanks to all of you for listening. You heard it from Rob Ashford. Go out. Do not be sheep. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. So check out the producersperspectivepro.com and hope you'll celebrate with us.
I'm gonna be